Everybody say hi to Harold.
Hi, Harold.
Hi, Harold.
What were my parents thinking? What kind of name is Harold? What is that?
Great name.
Come on. I got a brother named Jeff. I got a brother named Lee. Somehow Harold is coming. Name him Harold. I think it's a joke that went too far. Let's name him Harold. You guys know what we're talking about today?
No.
Organ donation.
Oh.
And we're not talking about church music. Let's start with the end of the story first. 12 years ago, I was in a hospital at Georgetown University where a team of surgeons knocked me out, cut me open, took out my left kidney. They put it inside a cooler filled with ice. Somebody grabbed that cooler, put it in his car, drove across town to a different hospital on the other side of town, where a different team of surgeons took my left kidney and put it inside of somebody that I had never met before. And what we're going to talk about today is, why would somebody wake up one day and start giving out body parts to people they don't know? Anybody want to take a shot at it? We can make this a very short class. We got a recess for an hour. The money? That's actually, in this country, it's illegal to do it for money, so. You can't sell organs. You're not supposed to sell organs. There's a black market. As a matter of fact, on eBay a few years ago, somebody said, anybody need a kidney? And very quickly, I mean, there's people dying every day. Very quickly, people started responding, and eBay had to shut them down because you just can't do that. It's against the law. Okay. I like starting with the end of the story first. About having done that, but I'm not a doctor. I don't know much about biology. As a matter of fact, since you guys are still in school, you probably know more about biology stuff than I remember, but everybody do this. Everybody make a fist. Doctors will tell you that's about the size of one of your kidneys. Most of us in this room, not necessarily all of us, most of us have two of them, and they're located back here on your lower back. Somebody tell me, what is the purpose or the function of the kidney? Hit me.
Filtering liquids.
Stop. Perfect. Filter. Exactly. Filters or cleans your blood. What's your name?
Tommy, right?
First name?
Tommy.
Dr. Tommy. Okay, so let's go for extra credit, Dr. Tommy. If the purpose of the kidneys is to clean or filter your blood, what happens if your kidneys are not functioning? Your body basically has three options. Give me one of them, maybe?
Just fails.
If it fails,
Basically.
die is one option. That is absolutely one of the three. It's kind of tea, stinky. Die is definitely one of the options. Short of dying, what can we do? Transplant is one. And while you're waiting for your transplant, a lot of people are on the waiting list right now. So what they do while they're waiting is something called dialysis. They hook you up to a machine, it takes your blood out, it cleans it, and it puts you back in. It's kind of a big pain in the butt. You have to go every other day, so it's like 3 times a week. Yeah, but I want to go visit my family in Colorado for the holidays. Yeah, I get it, but in order to go visit your family in Colorado, you've got to make sure that there's a dialysis center somewhere in Colorado. You've got to plan your days so that every other day, your body and your blood can be cleaned. Okay, that's really all the medical stuff that we need as a backup for this. What we really want to talk about today is, what I want to talk about is, why would somebody wake up and start giving out body parts? What's your first name?
Alex.
Good morning, Alex. How are you feeling today?
Good.
That's good. Okay, what we're going to do is a pretend. Let's pretend that while you're at school here today, everything goes well. You have lunch with your friends, you go home, you finish your homework early, and your mom comes home. This is just pretend, remember. At the dinner table, mom says to you, Alex, I went to the doctor today, and says, I'm sick. As a matter of fact, I'm so sick that unless I get a new kidney by the end of the week, I'm not going to survive. Pretend. And she says, I've called all my friends, everybody I work with, all our neighbors, everybody from church. We've reached out to everybody I can possibly think of, and there's not a match for the type of kidney that your mom needs. There's only one person who's got the right match who's able to possibly give your mom a kidney to save her life. Who do you think that is?
Me.
Yeah, so here's my question. Mom's not here listening, you can say whatever you want. If you could save your mom's life by donating one of your kidneys to her, would you consider doing that?
Yes.
Why?
Because because I love my mom and I don't want her to die.
Yeah. I ask that question a gazillion times a year, and that is almost always what the answer is. I should stop at this point and tell you, Alex had said no. Doesn't make her bad, and just by the fact that she said yes doesn't make it good. There's not a right or wrong answer to these questions. Pretty much this whole next half hour is individual to you. I want you to keep in mind that. But okay, yes for mom. Get it, we love her. Do you have a friend in this class?
No.
Pick one. Pick a friend.
Ivy.
What's your first name?
Ivy.
Heidi, stop smiling, you're dying. Put your head down and don't peek. No peeking. Okay, so mom, I get it. We love mom. I want to save her life. Heidi now has a week to live. Just kidding, Heidi. Don't say anything out loud, but shake your head yes or no. Would you consider donating to her to possibly save her life? Okay, you can look up. You can also buy her ice cream at lunch today. So, why would you say yes to her? She's not mom. She's not family. Why would you say yes?
I love Ivy too and I wouldn't want her to die either.
It's a good answer. Now, everybody's looking at you, and they're making comments and they're joking. It's not a real situation. We know that Heidi's healthy. We know mom's healthy today. But with people looking at you, it makes it kind of harder to answer some of these questions. What's your first name?
Lauren.
Hi, Lauren. Do you live in a house, an apartment, a condo? Where do you live?
A house.
I knew that because I drew your house this morning. See, this is your house right here. And if we're on the street and we look at your house, that's it. There's a house here and a house here. Who lives in this house next to you?
Michael and I have another name.
Stop. That's good. Is Michael or is Michael Michael?
Michael.
Okay. Michael's not here. Michael's not a friend. Michael's not your mom. Michael's dying. His neighbor. You don't know him that well. You see him take the trash out every Tuesday or whatever it is. Would you consider donating to Michael, the next door neighbor, if he was literally going to die?
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Good answer. That's actually very honest when you say probably. Why? Because let's be real. If none of these people were here, if it was just you and me, one-on-one having a conversation, and I ask you these questions, I think it seems like the most honest answer would be, I want to say yes, but don't you have like a billion questions you want to ask before somebody takes a knife and cuts you open? For me, and again, that's jumping to the end of the story, mom, I think we all understand. Best friends, that's cool. Maybe even a neighbor that we see on a regular basis because, you know, he gives out good candy on Halloween or whatever the answer is. But if you go 6 blocks down from where you live, they're your community. You don't really know that person 6 blocks down, but they're going to die tomorrow unless they get a kidney. That happens 16 times a day in the United States. Doctors know exactly what to do to fix these people. It's not like, you know, weird science where they don't know how to fix people yet. This is pretty standard stuff. You're sick, here's what we do. You're an O positive, so I go to the shelf, the kidney shelf, and I go, okay, O positive, the right number. Sorry, we're out today. Come back tomorrow and I'll have one for you. And you go, I don't have tomorrow. I need it today. And you go, sorry. 16 times a day in the United States, people die, and they know exactly how to fix them. They just don't have the parts. Okay. When I was a kid, my father was an architect. And on the weekends, when it was raining outside, what we would do sometimes is play with dominoes. And I don't mean dominoes 6 goes to 6 and then 3 goes to 3. I mean this kind of dominoes, when you set them up in a big long line. If you see that on the ESPN, somehow that's become a sporting event now, where you set them up in a big long line. When you get bored of setting them up, you kind of go, tick. One domino knocks the other one down, click, 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 click. The way I always explain my story is a series of dominoes. One thing caused another to happen, which caused this to happen, and I can actually look over my shoulder and tell you exactly how I ended up on that surgeon's table in Georgetown. The very first domino that fell for me was when I was in high school a gazillion years ago. Teacher came in and said, hey, we have an assembly today. How do we feel about assemblies? Why do we like assemblies? Come on, that hasn't changed in like 40 years, I'm telling you. Assemblies are cool. I'm not in math class. Cool assembly. So this assembly, normally assemblies are held in the gym or the auditorium. The teacher led us down into the cafeteria. That's different. That's not normal. The doors open, and instead of having the tables and chairs there was a bunch of cots set up, and people were laying on the cots and they were doing this. What are they doing? They're giving blood. And of course you look at the teacher and go, okay, time out. This is definitely not an assembly. People are sticking needles in arms. That's not an assembly. This is a participatory event. He goes, well, look, you don't have to. Math class. Rolled my sleeve up, and for the first time in my life, I gave blood. Boy, you remember Donna Carter, right? Donna? Donna was the captain of the cheerleaders when I was in high school. Donna was giving out cupcakes to everybody who gave blood. So after I gave, I'm like, okay, Donna just gave me a cupcake. I got baked goods from the captain of the cheerleaders. I'm not in math class, and I got to lay down for like 30 minutes or something. I'll give blood every day if somebody asks me to. This is great. Well, what I know today is that giving blood in high school, for me, was the first domino that fell down. That's the first click in my pathway to that surgeon's table. I get out of high school, and I go to college. Virginia Tech Hokies, go Hokies. West Coast. Okay, so it's my freshman year, and we come back for Christmas break. We've only been gone a couple months, right? And school starts September, October, December. We come home, and at the dinner table over Christmas break, my older brother, myself, and my younger brother were all around with my mom and dad. And my dad says, I went to the doctor today, I'm sick, kind of like the game we just played. It had nothing to do with kidneys or anything. He had some kind of weird cancer issue, is what they said. Making a long and painful story short as possible for this class, from the day he found out he was sick to the day he passed was about 5 weeks. It was quick, fast. And I remember my older and younger brother and I sitting around afterwards going, what the hell just happened? They just found out he was sick and he's gone. One thing that didn't make us feel good, but we held on to it, was the fact that, so how was your snack?
It's good.
Did you bring it up for everybody? Yeah, no, just kidding. One thing that kind of helped us a little bit was the fact that we could have been the richest people in the world and it would have had absolutely no impact on saving his life. It just, it wasn't an issue of money, they just didn't know how to fix it. I didn't like it, but I understood it. Look, I saw The Lion King. I think we've all probably seen The Lion King. Remember? Circle of life, you're born, you have a family, you love your mom and dad, maybe you have your own family, and eventually that circle closes, and that's what we got. Depending on your religious belief, you know, something else may be there, but right now, while you're here, that's kind of the story. For me, I want to make that circle as big and fun and happy as I possibly can, and when Dad passed, you know, it was a shock to us because he was relatively young. I get out of college. I'm bumping around looking for jobs on the East Coast, and I'm reading a newspaper one day, and there's an article about a teacher, a high school teacher in North Carolina, who donates one of her kidneys to save one of her students' life. And I remember reading that going, really? And to add interest to the story, teacher's white, student was African American, and I remember looking at that going, what? First of all, I didn't even know you could do that. Real older woman, younger kid, ethnicities. First of all, why would a teacher do that for a student? Would Bo do that for one of you guys? I mean, it was just different. I remember reading that and going, that's just, it's just different. That's not normal, but it caught my attention. So remember the dominoes? Blood donation. Dad dying at an early age. That North Carolina teacher was a domino that fell down that just got me to notice a little bit more. Okay, years pass, I get a job. The job moves me to New York. I'm married now. And it's February. It's Valentine's Day week, as a matter of fact. And my wife and I make a decision. Let's go to the mall together. You go down that part of the mall and buy me a present, and I'll go down this part of the mall and I'll buy you a present, and we'll meet up in an hour. So she goes that way, I go this way. And as I start walking, in the middle of the mall, thousands of people just keep hustling and bustling. is a table just like this set up in the middle of the mall. There's an elderly couple sitting in 2 chairs behind it, and in the front, there's a little poster taped to the front of the table. It says, "Please help us save our daughter's life." Look, I'm just here to buy chocolate and flowers, so I kind of walked by the table like this, pretending not even to notice them. And when I got past the table, I turned and looked around. What is everybody else in the mall doing? Exactly the same thing. There's like, that couple's not even there. So I make a U-turn, I come back and I ask them, "Excuse me, I see your sign, what's up?" And they said, well, their daughter has leukemia. And they were sitting in the mall because they wanted to ask the neighbors, bless you, to come to their church that Sunday to please give a vial, a little test tube of blood, to see if their bone marrow might be a match for their daughter, because if you have certain types of leukemia, getting a bone marrow transplant oftentimes can be very helpful. I'm looking at this going, holy crap. These people are in a mall asking strangers. Now the chances of your bone marrow matching hers are like 1 in a gazillion. It's tough. But their daughter is dying, she's sick. And they're now asking strangers in a mall for help. Ouch. I found my wife, and instead of doing the flowers and chocolate thing, sure enough, we went to their church on Sunday. We each gave a little vial of blood, and then forgot all about it for 6 months. 6 months later, my wife and I look at each other and go, you know, this whole New York thing was a fun experiment, but let's get the hell out of here. This is not the town for us. It's a little bit too for us. The day we move out of New York, the moving van had left. We're in our house, we're locking things up, and I look down on the front porch, and there's the New York Times. On the front page of the newspaper, I notice there's a picture. It's a pretty young girl wearing a beautiful dress. And I look and I go, I know her. That. And I quickly realize that's the girl from the mall, the daughter that the parents were trying to help. And I go, wow. It's been 6 months. Obviously, look at her. She's beautiful. They didn't call us. We didn't do it, but they got help from somebody. That's not what the story was. As I started reading the article, she had just passed, actually. And the parents were so touched by so many of their neighbors had come forward and signed up to try to be a match. They said, although we couldn't save our daughter's life, because of so many of you came out and donated a little bit of blood to enter into the bone marrow system, eventually somebody's going to be saved because of what one of you guys did. And they wanted to say thanks. I'm telling you, now it's been 10 years, I'm tingling a little bit just remembering that. Okay, domino, boom. I felt that one. I met those people. That one I felt. Okay, now my job has me flying all the time. I'm going back and forth on planes. And I was flying from DC to California. It's like a 5 or 6 hour flight. I finished reading the book I had been reading, and there were still a few hours left on the flight. I was bored, so I put the headphones on and started watching the movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it was a movie about a high school football player who's got a decision to make. He's the star of the team, and he can continue to be the star of the team, or he can give his kidney to save grandma's life. Grandma football. Grandma football. What do you think he did? Yeah, it's a movie, so he saved grandma. And in the movie, at least, they all live happily ever after. Shame on you. As I said, it's not a great movie, but at the end, as the credits are rolling up, starring, directed by, the very last thing that rolls up on the screen says, for more information about organ donation, call this number. 1-800, give us your kidney, or whatever it was. And I remember I actually opened up the book that I had finished reading and jotted that number down inside the cover, closed it, put it in my briefcase, and forgot about it. I'm cleaning up stuff a few months later, and I find the book, boom, and it opens up. I see that phone number. Boop, 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 boop. Hey, saw the movie. Can you send me information on organ donation? 2 days later, I get a packet. I get a packet filled with information. And I started looking through it, and every pamphlet that they had sent me is about how to donate after you're dead. Okay, so I call them back up and say, thanks, got it, not dead yet. Can you do me a favor? I'm actually considering donating to somebody here in the neighborhood. And they go, oh, sorry, we must have misunderstood. Is it for a family member or a friend? And I said, well, none of the above. I'm actually considering possibly donating it to whoever needs it the most. You're not going to believe what they said. They said, you cannot do that, it's illegal. Excuse me? She says, yeah, well, have you ever heard of anything called the waiting list? I said, yeah, I think so. She said, well, the organ transplant waiting list is actually run by the government. And the way you're placed on this if you need something is the government looks at you and they use a bunch of factors. How old you are, how sick you are, how long you've been on the list, what organs do you need, and all these things, a computer, every day, it resorts them. And when I say something like, I may want to give a kidney to somebody in my neighborhood, what happens if someone in Westlake Village is next on the list, and I say I want it to go to somebody in DC? You can't do that, it screws the list up. It just deprioritizes what they've set up. But, she said, as a matter of fact, more and more people are starting to ask that question, and various cities around the country are trying to set up experimental programs that might allow you to be able to do that in the future. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. I gave them my contact information and forgot all about it. My phone rings a year later. Hi, this is Harold. And they said, yeah, is this the Harold Minster said he wanted to give his kidney away? And I went, whoa, I didn't say I want to do it. I just said I was curious and I had questions about it. And they said, well, DC is the first city in the country that's approved these non-designated donor programs. If you want, you can come in and ask questions of the doctors. This is where it gets interesting. Let's pretend you're going to have surgery tomorrow to have someone take out one of your kidneys. I'm your doctor and you can ask anything you want. So, they're going to cut you open tomorrow. What do you want to know? What's the first question you want to ask?
Am I going to be okay?
Great question. It's absolutely one of my top 10. Actually, what I asked was, will I survive? Doctors don't like that question because the answer is not 100% yes, you're going to survive. Any surgery, there's risk and there's a possibility. But the number they told me, I'm going to make it up and say, it was 1 out of 750 don't wake up from that surgery. I went, wow, 749 people wake up. That wasn't too bad. Good question. What else do we want to know? The doctor's going to slice you. What do you want to know? Fire away.
Is there going to be any side effects after the surgery?
Good question. I got specific. I like fried food. Can I continue to eat fried food? Yes. Mr. Heart won't love you if you eat too much fried stuff, but Mr. Kidney's good with it. Drinking. That was if I want a beer or wine or something like that. Can I do that? Yes. Your liver won't love you if you do too much of that, but again, your kidneys, no issue. Will I have to eat pills for the rest of my life? No. The recipient will, anti-rejection pills and all that regimen of pharmaceuticals, but as a donor, once the surgery is over, nothing. Good question. So there's very little. Actually, the only thing they said that might happen to an organ donor in the future is you have a potential higher risk for high blood pressure in the future. So it's been 11, almost 12 years for me. Guess what pills I went on last year? High blood pressure. It actually came to pass where I do need pills for that now. But other than that, not much different. What else we want to know, guys? They're going to cut you. Yes, sir?
How long is it going to take?
How long is it going to take? Well, specifically for me, I had surgery and I was back at work 2 weeks later, and I could have been back to work a week later, but I stayed home an extra week. Hey, come up here, I want to show you something. There's 2 ways they could have done this surgery. Give me one of these. The first way is they take a scalpel, what's your first name? Tommy. They put a scalpel on his belly button, cut, spin around, cut. Halfway across Tommy's body, they open him up, reach in, pull out his kidney, and then sew him back up again. Thanks. You're good. When he goes to the beach this summer, after that surgery, and he's walking down the beach, you're going to look at him and go, ooh, yeah, something serious happened to that guy. That's a slice in the head. As opposed to something called laparoscopic surgery, which they do a whole bunch of surgeries that way now. Okay, it's kind of gross, but I think it's so cool. Do you know what I have at home on my desk? I've got a DVD of my surgery. Why? Because Georgetown University is a teaching hospital and they record everything, and it's disgustingly cool. It's unbelievable. You think that's gross? I'm going to tell you about it. So here's what they do first. They knock you out, and the very first thing they do is they take a straw, and they put a straw in your belly. and the machine does this. So, why do you think they make you look like a Macy's Day float? Why do they inflate you with air? Why?
Pop you.
So, yeah. No.
What are you saying?
Why do they fill you up with air? Why do they make you bigger?
They have more room.
Yeah, that's it. Simple. So they have more room to see and move things around. They take out the straw, and they replace it with a flexible tube that on the end of it has a TV, a tiny little TV camera. And they put that in there. So now I have this Macy's Day float with this TV, and in an HD screen right here for the surgeons to look at is broadcasting of everything that's going on inside. It's unbelievable. Then they take two long chopsticks. I'll call them chopsticks. On the end of one is this, and on the end of the other is a scalpel. So now with the TV camera and these two tools, they see everything they want. There's the stomach, they push the stomach out of the way. There's the liver, move him. There's the kidney we want. And with that scalpel, they kind of cut it free. And I tell you, I swear this is true. On that little silver tray that's got all the tools is a Ziploc baggie. That doctor takes that baggie, he makes a tiny little 1.5-inch incision right here near my belly button, and takes that baggie and stuffs the baggie inside my belly. And with the TV camera, he takes that kidney, it's all inside, he takes that kidney and puts it inside the Ziploc baggie. And with a big-ass pair of tweezers, he pulls that baggie with the kidney out inside. It's like, unbelievable! Why do they put it in a plastic bag? Because so it stays, you know, if you pull the kidney out, but it's smooth and it just slides right out. Then they squish the air out and sew me up and we're done. My surgery lasted 3.5 hours. And when I go to the beach, Tommy, this summer, I got no issues. Well, let me rephrase. You can't see any scars. I got tons of issues. There's absolutely, I'm not Tommy, but this thing, I got this. I got a tiny little cut that nobody would ever see. Okay, so we're still in front of the doctors asking questions. What else do we want to know from the doctors? Is there anything we need to know? You ready to go under the knife? Yeah.
Will it affect you, like, physically? Like, can you not run or anything? Or are you fine?
You know, aside from the tenderness after the surgery, after a few weeks when you recuperate, there's absolutely zero effects that I've had. Now, if I was 16 or 18 or 20 and I'm still in a potential, I'm going to play touch football, I'm going to get tackled, I'm going to play rugby, if I'm a boxer, if I'm doing things that might injure my one remaining kidney, they're going to say, think twice before you go into that boxing ring. But as I was past that age of contact sports, I've been bungee jumping 3 or 4 times since. You can take your body and mix it all up and it has no effect. There's no problem. Zero. The one you have gets a little bit bigger, works a little harder, and there's virtually no difference that I can tell beforehand. Good question. Yes, sir.
If something wrong were to happen to my remaining kidney, could I get a transplant myself?
Absolutely one of the questions on my list. I don't know if you heard that, but if you give, does that give me any extra credit on the transplant waiting list if I ever need one in the future? Yes, actually. It doesn't move me to the top, but whatever it does, I got a little gold star that will move me a little bit. But the reason I'm not too worried about that, I have so many friends. I have so many people that I know that I think, God forbid, if I needed something, I think I know lots of people would probably raise their hand. But
I was just wondering if you didn't know the transplant in the first place.
say that again?
I was wondering, actually, if you just could get a transplant. And so,
I could, absolutely, yeah. By the way, medical thing, the person who got mine, they don't take out your kidney to make room for the new one. If your kidneys aren't functioning and you need a new one, they kind of atrophy. And so they put in the new one and they leave the other ones there just because it's simpler surgery. So you can easily, you know, everything fits. Okay, no more questions? Are you good? You ready to go under the knife? Okay, so I said to them, you haven't freaked me out. Your answers to these questions have been informative and I'm not scared. If I want to do this, what's the very first medical test we have to do? So what do you think? What do you think the first medical test is?
blood test.
Blood test. That's the second thing, not the first. Anybody? Say it. It's all right. No. They sent me to a psychiatrist. I laughed too. I said, why would they do that? And then I said, of course, it hit me. What kind of knucklehead wakes up one day and says, hey, let's start giving out body parts to people we don't know. Let's send them to a psychiatrist and find out. So I went in, I laying down on a couch just like in the movies, and I share with this psychiatrist pretty much the exact same story I'm sharing with you. High school blood donation, the cupcake from the cheerleader, my dad, the movie on the plane. Now I'm here. And after an hour, I'm putting my coat on, and I'm not sure what you're supposed to say to a psychiatrist when you're done, so I said, how did I do? And she said, oh, you did great. Now, I'd like to see you next Friday with your wife. Oh. Okay. At this point in the story, what does my wife know about this? Absolutely nothing. You guys know I actually did this, but back then, this was just questions I was asking. I get home that day. How was your day, honey? Oh, it was good. I had lunch over there, I had a meeting with Bob, and oh, by the way, I went and talked to a psychiatrist to talk about possibly giving my kidney away to a stranger, and she goes, you're so funny. I said, yeah, I know, but I did. Now she's not laughing, and she goes, what do you mean? I explained to her a little bit about what the idea was. Now she's not only not laughing, now she's getting angry at me. She says, no, you can't do that. Now I get angry. What do you mean I can't do that? She says, what are you talking about? You're voluntarily going to raise your hand to give your kidney to someone you don't know, to have a surgery you might not wake up from? You've got a wife, you've got a daughter. No, you don't have my blessing, you can't do this. I said, okay, time out. Hold on. You're smarter than I am, but I can't believe you're going to make a decision like this before we collect all the information. How about this? How about I'll make you 51% of this decision-making process. I'll be 49. But let's collect all the information we can before we say yes or no. And we agreed. That next Friday we went to the psychiatrist. I can't believe one of the first questions that she asked my wife. She said, in any surgery there's risk. There's a possibility your husband might not wake up from the surgery, and if he does, she used the V word, he might become a vegetable, she said. She said, would you still be able to take care of him if that were to happen? And I'm looking at the psychiatrist going, really? That's what you want to ask her? Because aren't we trying to get her to say yes? I love my wife. She's so cool. She's, look, I don't want to do this. I know my husband's reasons and why he wants to do this. He's my husband. I love him. Of course I'd take care of him. That day I walked out of a psychiatrist's office with a piece of paper that says Harold is normal. And it's got a fancy little official seal on it. Do you have one of those? I don't think so. I don't. Then came all the other tests. After you pass the psych, you go into the medical. They take blood. Oh my God, do you know how much pee they need from you to take the kidney from you? It's like, how much pee do you need to understand that it's normal or whatever? Answer, 1,000,000 gallons of pee. Again, what they don't want to do is give a potentially unhealthy kidney to somebody who needs it, so they do a lot of testing. Something called EKGs, you've seen it on TV 1,000,000 times, where they put sticky things with wires on your chest, put you on a treadmill, tell you to start hoofing it so they can tell how strong your heart is under stress. MRIs. X-rays take pictures of bones. MRIs take pictures of soft, gushy stuff. They have to make sure I have 2 kidneys. You laugh, but we did this last. There's about 1,500 kids in this school system here. 2 of you, by numbers, say were born with 1 kidney. You could have 1 kidney, and you wouldn't know it because it's no different. You don't feel any different. The only reason they'd know is if somebody took a picture inside and go, hey, you only got 1 kidney. So they wanted to make sure I had 1 to give. So we're going through all these tests, and the whole way through the tests, I'm saying to my wife, don't worry. There's been 10 people in line in front of me in this experimental program to get through it. You know how many of those 10 have gotten through? None. And the reason is, this is an experimental program. What would happen if something bad happened to the donor or the recipient the first time out of the gate? You'd probably shut the program down. So they were waiting for the perfect donor. And I kept telling my wife, you know me, I'm a lot of things, and perfect is definitely not one of them. No sweat. No sweat, don't worry about it. Guess who the first person to pass all the tests was in this experimental program? So in December of 2000, I said to my wife, well, I passed all the tests and missed 51% of the decision. What do you want to do? And at this point, she had been with me the whole way. She had asked all the questions right along with me. She said, let's do it. So there I was, in Georgetown University. I kissed my wife. I said, I'll see you later. And they wheeled me into the operating room. Who here has had anesthesia? That's crazy stuff, isn't it? I'm not talking dentist knock me out. I'm talking about put something in your arm and knock you out. It's crazy. I love telling people this who've never done this. Here's a piece of string. It's not bad. Here's a piece of string. It's your life. You know, it's the anesthesiologist. I think they go to school and they take a class on this. I want you to count from 100 backwards, which is a big joke. Right? Here I am. 100, 99. Really? You can count from 3 backwards. You're not getting to 0. It's just like conk out. So I always explain to somebody, it's not like sleep. It's not sleep at all. Here's a piece of string. You go 100, 99. And it's like the doctor takes that string and cuts it. And he comes over here and he cuts that. He takes the string, he just tosses that away. He takes these and ties it together. So for me it's 199, and I like blinked. And when I opened my eyes again, what felt like seconds later, I woke up. And when I woke up, I was in the middle of talking. I was talking to my wife when I woke up. I was in the middle of a sentence. And I go, and I stopped talking, and I look at my wife, and I said, what happened? And she said, what are you talking about? We've been here for the last 2 hours talking. No way! I was talking to my wife for 2 hours and have absolutely no clue what that was about. To this day, she kind of holds it over my head. Well, you know what you told me when you're under, right? Oh my goodness. I feel great. They can't have done the surgery. I feel wonderful. Doctor comes in and says, well, of course you feel wonderful. You've got like a zillion drugs coursing through your body. Did everything go okay? Yeah, you're great. We know nothing about what's going on the other side of town. That night, the phone rings. Remember, at this point in the story, what do I know about the recipient?
Nothing.
Male, female, young, old, African American, Hispanic, Asian, white. I know nothing. That's the deal. You give it this way. The phone rings at 7 o'clock. I'm still feeling absolutely good. Hello? And it's the lady in charge of the experimental program. And she says, hey, I'm not supposed to tell you anything about the recipient, but I can share a little bit. Yeah, please, go for it. Well, it's a woman. She's a wife. She's a mother of 2. She's an accountant in Springfield. She'd been on the waiting list for 12 years. She was on her deathbed, and this is a quote. They said, as soon as they put your kidney inside of her, it started peeing up a storm. And I said, is that good or bad? And she laughed and said, it started functioning immediately. It started pumping out exactly what it was supposed to do instantly when they hooked it up. That was a very good day for my wife and I. So the next day they're kicking us out of the hospital, and they said, before the surgery, we asked you if you wanted to meet your recipient, because if both recipient and donor agree, you can meet later on. Would you want to meet the recipient if you did this? How come? Why?
I don't know, they shared something with me, so.
Yeah, it's like the end of, not the end of the story, but don't you want to see the results? You know, kind of, my kidney's walking around over there, and I was curious. So they asked me as I was walking out, we need to know so we can possibly set up this meeting. And I actually had changed my mind, and I said, no. Now tell me why you think I might have said no. Somebody. You just gave a body part away. Why would you not want to meet the person? Because what?
Because it's now theirs. It isn't theirs.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that one too often. But for me, I kept thinking, we had done so much research that I knew in DC, most of the people on the waiting list are African American. Obviously I'm not. And my big fear was, what happens if this person sees me, don't laugh, they see me and they go, ew, that's not, I didn't know, take it out. You know, they probably wouldn't do any of that. They probably wouldn't. But at this point, for me in this story, I'm telling you, For me, it was a fairy tale. Once upon a time, there's a kid who gave blood in high school, he gave a cupcake, he saw a movie, and he gave a kidney, and it peed up a storm, and they all lived happily ever after. That's a very, very good story. And if you start introducing real people to each other, it can't get any better. The only possibility that I saw was it would be a letdown. Something not as good could happen, and so I said, no, thank you. So I go home, and a week later, the phone rings, and it's the program calling up saying, look, we talked to your recipient, and she just wanted us to pass along a message to you. She wanted us to share that all she wants to do is meet you and your family to say thank you. She just wants to say thank you. She doesn't want anything. So we said yes. 3 months exactly to the day after surgery, they set up a press conference for us. How much time do we have?
We got about 3 to 4 minutes.
3 or 4? Yeesh. And we met. And we shared, how did our lives do this intersection? How did we get together? We are as opposite of people as you could possibly find. Tall, white, Jewish blabberhead with a big nose and a mustache. Tiny Ethiopian woman who barely speaks above a whisper, extremely Christian. I mean, we are opposite people. And yet, intersection. I had lunch with her in DC 2 weeks ago. She's doing great. Truly, at this point in the story, 12 years later, they all lived happily ever after. Now, why do you think I get the benefit of coming in here and sharing the story with you guys specifically? There is a reason. You're all at the age where you're about to get your driver's license. And one of the questions on that driver's license application says, do you want to be an organ donor? And they're not talking about giving now like I did while you're alive. They're talking about after you're gone, can we use your parts? And I'm here to tell you, not to say yes, but that I would hope you would consider having a conversation with your family tonight. Because, God forbid, something happens in your family, you or a relative, when people are freaking out and people are dying in hospitals is not the time to have this conversation. Then it hurts. Tonight, it's just interesting. I had a guest speaker come in and this is what we talked about. Now it's just interesting and it doesn't hurt. I strongly urge you to do that. Any last questions before you blow out of here? No, okay, so to remind you to hopefully do that, on your way out, take some mints and